Hello, my name is Eric Liguori, and I'm here today with Dan Cohen from Wake Forest University to talk a little bit about Dan's work that's forthcoming in USOSB's uh, fourth volume of the Annals of Entrepreneurship, Education, and Pedagogy that comes out this January with Edward Elgar Publishing. Dan, thanks so much for joining us today to share a little bit more about your work.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Looking forward to talking about it.
So, I've gone back through your chapter, and your contribution is in our 5 Master Educators chapter. And it's my favorite one in the volume that we've done in the last few years. Every year, that Master Educator piece is just so insightful and so impactful. So thanks for contributing to it. And when I look at it, you kind of talk about the connection between research and teaching, and in part out of a desire to sort of be relevant and impactful, but also just to be pragmatic and efficient. And so can you share a little bit more about how your teaching informs your research and your research informs your teaching?
Absolutely, Eric. Well, first, it's absolutely my honor to be here and to participate in this. And so thank you for having me. So in terms of your question, I'm a center director, which means I wear many hats. I have administrative oversight of the program, and I have a pretty healthy teaching load. And I also have some expectation around research as well. And so to do all those things well, you have to be somewhat efficient in how you think about spending your time. And so I've landed lately on doing experiments, and that kind of collided with an acceptance in the journals, where you're seeing more and more entrepreneurial experiments get published. And so I started to think about how I could conduct experiments that were relevant to practice and relevant to teaching. And so I'm always thinking about entrepreneurship and thinking about ways to evolve and improve my teaching and reaching my students in new and unique ways. And at the same time, I also have a great deal of respect for research and the rigor that goes into conducting research and wanting to really know, as opposed to, this seems like a good method. It seems like the students are responding well. I would much rather have stronger empirical support for my findings. And I also find that when I go to a conference and share my work, it's more impactful if it's backed by something that has been published, as opposed to just my own opinion. So that constellation of all those factors has led me to think about things that I want to study, and then conduct the studies in my own classrooms and classrooms around Wake Forest University, and typically doing experiments so that I can really empirically and rigorously test these ideas, so that when I share them with my colleagues, I know that they've got good, sound empirical support behind them.
You're leveraging the curiosity and the energy and the passion of the student body to fuel sort of a behavioral research lab. That's kind of neat.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
It's very cool. It's very cool. I think we're seeing more and more work like that start to get published in a variety of places, including the Annals, including USOSB's journal. And so it's very, very exciting to see momentum really starting to build. I'll shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the IDEATE method, which is, I guess, a methodology you guys developed. It is now featured in one of the leading textbooks in entrepreneurship kind of globally, and it's available as a standalone framework as well. Can you talk a little bit about that method and kind of its genesis and how maybe it's impacted the Center for Entrepreneurship at Wake Forest?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And I'm very excited and passionate about the IDEATE method. Again, it's been rigorously tested empirically. It just was published in Small Business Economics in late July. And so I'm proud of that work, along with my co-authors, Dan Su and Rachel Shinar. And the way first of all, it's a method, it's an acronym, it's a method that an entrepreneurship educator can learn and put into practice in their own classroom. And it was driven by a desire to see students get excited about their ideas. And what I was observing before I developed the method was that students were kind of going through the motions. They'd come up with an idea, and then they would go out and they would do evidence-based entrepreneurship, and they would kind of just not really believe in their idea, was my overall sense. And that's not a good way to teach entrepreneurship. I mean, entrepreneurship, I think, is an all-in kind of thing, and you really have to believe in your idea. So I was driven initially by the desire to help them get better at spotting, evaluating, and selecting high potential entrepreneurial ideas.
Right.
And again, I'm somewhat of a practical thinker. I wanted to help students get better at ideation because it's a key skill in the entrepreneurial mindset. The other thing is that it really drives the Center for Entrepreneurship, because if they have better quality ideas, when they go out and they do customer discovery, they're much more likely to get customer validation. And if they get customer validation, then they're much more likely to morph their idea into a concept where they build a prototype, where they make some early stage sales with target market customers. And then from there, they're much more likely from that standpoint to develop it into a venture. And so what we have found since we put the IDEATE method into practice is that we have generated significantly more ideas that are of higher quality. And we've seen more of those develop prototypes, that develop into concepts, raise some early stage seed capital, and then we've seen more of them raise more robust external capital and develop ventures. In fact, in the last full year before COVID, 5 of our startup lab teams raised external capital, and that's a first in Wake Forest history. So what we're seeing is that the IDEATE method is really the fuel driving more ideas, better quality ideas, which leads to more concepts, which leads to more ventures. If you would, you can think about it like a flywheel, where we're just one levers the next, and we're just really building this really beautiful virtuous cycle. And then in terms of output, those students, when they graduate, they become great mentors. They come back and they mentor current students, their prospective advisory council members, and they really are fervent supporters of the program. So it's this beautiful virtuous cycle where they learn the whole entrepreneurial cycle from idea, concept to venture, and then they graduate and become really ardent supporters of our program. So it's really had a dramatic impact.
Yeah, it's amazing. You get the benefit of that spillover effect of, the prior students' success on the current students. So it fuels sort of the next generation of engagement and passion and buy-in into the process, and it just produces better and better outcomes. That's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that.